Good morning and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Santa Clarita In-Home Care and Advanced Audiology. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Gene Dorio,
on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of quality of life, oh yes, our guest this morning is Kim Wall, and she is a nutritionist.
A homeopath, a guru. I call myself a body mechanic. That's what I'm claiming this year. I'm a body mechanic.
Body mechanic.
That's right. I'm going to help people understand the mechanics of the body, mind, spirit connection, because we're a machine that works off of energy, off of fuel, off of motivation, lack of, too much. But we're a machine, and I want to help people understand that instead of, like you said, let's not cut the nose off to spite the face.
There you go. In another context,
In
isn't
another
it?
context, exactly.
So I wonder what our subject is today.
It could be, you know me, Barb. It can be anything. But Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Happy New Year. I haven't
Yes.
seen you guys since the New Year. Happy New Year.
Yes.
And thank you for inviting me back. It's fun to
good to
come play
have
with
you
guys.
It's good to have you.
And we want to bring into account body mechanics and the balance that is there for our seniors coming into the new year.
You bet. And I think the best part about a new year is just simple reevaluation. You know, just look at those simple things that make life quality, like we were talking before the show, Barb. It's not about a holiday, per se, on the 25th or whatever the day might be. It's about creating a holiday with your family or your loved ones, no matter what that is. I'm a child of divorce way back when nobody got divorced. And I remember that as a very vivid part of my childhood. And I did have that scattered holiday. And I learned it's not about a day, it's about the people you're around and what you create. And so many people get caught up in the other part and they lose the real love and joy of it, as opposed to the materialness of it, or the house has to be, or this has to be perfect.
But talk about also the part about how we are mentally and the stresses that go along with that, then the impact that it has on our body.
I was watching an amazing show the other day. I do Gaia TV off the internet, and it's lovely with some of the stuff. And it was talking about that, actually, and how those emotions come into the body, and that energy of who we are, and how it comes in as a hurt. As an example, my daughter, when she was in high school, my youngest one, very sensitive, smart kid, started going to high school, started getting fever blisters on her lip. And, you know, what could we give her? What could we do? Well, being a homeopath, I always look at the emotional component as well as a physical expression of something. So I started looking into it and seeing, and we did eucalyptus oil, which definitely helped immediately with stopping the progression of the cold sore or fever blister. And anyways, when I looked up the emotional modalities, it was very interesting. The remedy she needed was a remedy called Nat Mur, which is actually made from table salt. But when you read the modalities of Nat Mur, the emotional talks about a humiliation, an embarrassment, a hurt. And what was happening, she was a freshman in high school, she was having emotional, the teachers, the people, the whole interaction, she was having a hard time emotionally processing it. So her body, on her nerve pathways, which every impulse travels on, was expressing this. So interesting enough, when we gave her the Nat Mur as a remedy, these cold sores and fever blisters stopped happening. She'd feel it, she'd take the remedy, and it never came. Well, by the time she was a sophomore, junior, senior, she's never had one since. Why? Because we helped her body deal with an emotional. How do we deal with emotional? I'm stressed out, I'm going to go drink, or I'm going to go eat, or I'm going to go do something, as opposed to expressing that energy. That's when people exercise, even if it's walking or journal or painting or clay or kickboxing or I don't care what it is, gardening. Find what it is in your life. You know, I go out, I got chickens, I got 4 girls now, they're all laying, yay. That's part of my therapy. I have a half acre. I go out, I rake, I talk to them, I put my hands in the earth, I do dishes. Who likes to do dishes? Find the joy, the purpose in whatever it is, because if we're thinking negative all the time, then the impulse of energy through the body is going to be detrimental. Even if we're at that point and it's not good, you know what? I'm hanging in there. And I dedicate this show and this positive hope energy to my sister who has MS. And this is somebody who is 50 years old. And she struggles for every step, and she struggles for every effort in her life. And she does it with positiveness. And sometimes she gets discouraged, like we all do. But you know what? we're all here for a purpose and a lesson and an interaction. You know, you walk by that person on the street, you look up and smile. What is your energy you're throwing out, or do you give them a dirty look? And we don't realize how much of what we interact. We made a joke last night. You know, if we took all these people that were in a certain room last night and eliminated that thought process and just brought in all the loving energy of what people are, because you love your family and you love yours, and why is that energy focused on? And we bring that in and we become what they tell us we are. You have to do this when you get older. You're going to have to be on medicine, and you're going to have to be in a home, and you're going to have to, well, wait a minute. We don't have to do anything. We can own and claim it, but we have to own it. We can't expect Mr. Government or Mr. Doctor or Mr. whoever to come in and make it okay for us as we sit there and do nothing. We have to have that motivation to get up, and that motivation through the mind, as we know, every impulse comes from the brain, through the nerves, to the muscles, tissues, and we know those positive things can bring life-giving energy as opposed to the thought process of, oh, I have cancer, that's it, I'm done. Well, that's not true. We've seen in studies done, people that have severe terminal, that mindset can make a huge difference. And is it how we perceive what those illnesses are? What's going on in my body? What's going on in my body is my body's telling me, you're stressed out. You know what? You're taking a lot of this in, and you know what? You haven't put your feet up. You haven't gone and taken a bubble bath. You haven't gone for a walk in the backyard or the park or gone to the library or whatever it is that makes your life go. And sometimes being somebody in a senior experience of life, think of what you have to offer those people around you. You know, the beautiful gifts like writing a letter. Imagine writing a letter to somebody just of love and appreciation, something so simple.
But those who are listening right now, you know, there are some people who are just getting to a point in life where they have to get over this huge hump because they're realizing they're getting old. And with that hump comes negativity.
Because society says you have to be.
And then the impact, you watch television, and every commercial that's on the news.
Unplug from that.
It's a drug that because you're older, you better take it or get this wrinkle out or whatever it is. You have to do those things. How do we
unplug
get people,
from that? Yes.
But how do we, I mean, it's hard to unplug.
You know what? It's funny how addicted people are to television, though. You know, it is a really crazy thing because I unplug from TV. I do internet now, and I pick what I want to watch, and and I really like it. I find much more entertainment, and I find better shows for my granddaughter, and more uplifting. And I'm not watching it, but it's funny as I have antenna. And every now and then I'll watch the news just to see what the weather, and I sit there and I almost want to get a tally board. Drug commercial, this commercial, food commercial, diet. It's like, wow.
It's not greater than 90%. Easily.
Where is the commercial for, have you gone out and seen Big Sur? Have you read this book?
No money in that.
You know what? The money, and that's
exactly
where
right.
we need to get people to shift that mindset, because where is that? Is if we have healthy, happy, whole quality of life, then there's enough for everyone. And you're right. What do you bring into your home, you know? Back in the day, we had the radio, we had music, and even the radio that was for entertainment, like we're doing, it's something simple. It's real people. It's alive. It's not a script. It's not something created on television to make you think or do, because even the news, these things are owned and operated by corporations. If I can unplug from that and go outside that, you want to know what's going on in the world? Watch news from another country. Don't watch news from America. There you go. Don't watch news from America, because you know what? It's sugar. Exactly. It's sugar coated. It's where they want to take you. When you get old, you're going to have to. You better prepare. You know what? My mom, perfect example. You know, Kim shingles vaccine. I should really get that. Why, Mom? Well, have you seen the commercials on that? It's horrible. I said, you know what's horrible, Mom? Is children today are getting shingles because they're being vaccinated for chickenpox, which is a normal immune response in your body. We don't want to bypass it. It's like when you come through the birth canal. When you come through the birth canal, every orifice of your body is squeezed. You have an adrenaline rush, and those hormones that are produced mature your lungs so you can breathe air.
I remember
Babies that are
moment.
cesarean, you remember that moment. Good for you. You got a memory. Cesarean babies have more respiratory issues because they don't have that experience. Chickenpox is an experience. You don't die from chickenpox. The body immune response creates something. And what are shingles down the road? It's just showing you your immune system is fatigued. So what do? Do I take a vaccine to make it never happen? That's it. That's so out of character of what makes sense. No, I keep my immune system healthy so that shingles virus or any other virus or bacteria in this universe doesn't disturb me. My body responds, goes, oh, no, I know what you are. I got the right antibodies to get rid of you.
Well, you know what? When I was a little girl in England, I had chicken pox. I had whooping cough. I had all of those childhood diseases that they now have shots for.
And you pass that immunity on to your children, and that's where the strength of a community came from, is you were a healthy mother and you ate food and you gave your children those nutrients, and then they had, maybe my son never got chicken pox. And let me tell you, I exposed that kid. I can't tell you how many times I exposed that kid, and he never got them.
That's amazing.
Let me tell you the story of motherhood. I got chicken pox with my children, with my daughter. One daughter brought it home, and then my other daughter and I got it. And you know why? Because I was a stressed out mom. That's why I had chicken pox as a child. But I got them again and they were bad, but I got them again because my immune system was compromised. I had 3 small children. I was a working mom. I was a PTA president. I was burning the candle at both ends, and I wasn't a healthy woman like I am today. And that's that difference. It doesn't matter age, but it is about how we respond. So no, we don't want to stop those things. The problem today is what chickenpox vaccine is promoted as, so parents don't lose work hours.
Well, they also have measles vaccines. I had measles. I had all of those childhood diseases.
Because that's what we did. And as the society got stronger and stronger, less and less people got it. Because let me tell you what, people, the answers are all in the statistics and in the facts. That these diseases declined before vaccinations were ever introduced. And there's a lot of stuff we can go with vaccines. But my whole thing is this. It's about body mechanics. I don't want an artificial lubricant telling my body what to fight and not fight, when I can naturally give my body what it needs to stimulate my own T cells and my own immune response to work properly for me. That way it's for me, because I'm different than you. We might all be exposed to the flu in this room, and you might get a runny nose and whatever, and you might get this and I might get this. That's the uniqueness of homeopathy, and that's why I love homeopathy, because not only does it bring the mind aspect of healing, and I've seen it many times where people were stuck in an emotional, but it brings in the physical as well as the mechanical. One of the most profound stories for me when I worked at Valencia Wellness Center, when I came out here many years ago, 1998, and I sat down at that desk across from the thing with Jan Balster, the owner then. He looked at me, I'm sure, and thought, yeah, whatever. There's horns and there's stick and the whole 9 yards. But he says, I'll give you 90 days, And I'll never forget this case. He brought me this lady. I was there a few weeks, and almost a couple months probably. But he brought me this case of this lady, distinguished businesswoman, dressed to the nine, and she had horrible vertigo. And so Jen says, this is her 5th prescription of a drug, and nothing is working for her. It's been 4 years, and she's at her wit's end. It's emotionally now wearing on her. Every time she gets out of bed, she's dizzy. She's taking these things. She can't drive. It's getting worse. So she sits down at my desk, and we start talking. And that homeopathic detective in me starts to listen to all those things, because in my training as a homeopath, you have every single clue I need. I just have to listen to them, and you'll tell me exactly what you need. Your body is perfect in what it knows. So we start talking, and I said, what happened in your life about 4 or 5 years ago, before this started? She says, well, nothing really. She says, I work and this and that. She says, well, you know what? I was in a car accident. And I said, well, were you hurt? She says, no, but it scared the living out of me. And I said, really? So I gave her a homeopathic remedy, and I said, I want you to take this home. This is, almost 20 years ago, old school. I have King Bio now. I would take it a whole new way, but I said, take this remedy and take it tonight, and take 3 doses before you go to bed. Next morning, I come into work, and she's sitting at my little desk in the pharmacy. And I'm like, oh, hey, let me clock in and sit down. How are you? She says, this is the first day in 4 years I woke up without vertigo. What did you give me? And I said, okay, look, and I opened up my Materia Medica, which tells me how all the remedies will affect the body. And when she read the vertigo section of aconite, which was a remedy given for fear and shock, she said every single one of those symptoms I had. So what she had wasn't physical. The doctors couldn't find anything. Nobody could find anything, because it wasn't physical. It was emotional. And we live in a system that says it can't be emotional. Let me give you a drug and another drug and another drug, and let's chase a drug game instead of saying, wait a minute. Not to say psychiatry, because psychiatry is also drug-based. Psychology would be more of a response. That perfect would be psychology, but bringing that homeopath in, because I can give you a remedy to release that. I can give you a remedy to prevent that trauma from ever happening. So if we have somebody that's a senior, and I mean, this is crazy, but I've seen it, who tell me, I've had arthritis for 45 years, and I can give them a remedy and that goes away. Now, if I've had it for 45 years, I might have damage to my body because of that inflammation. But can we shift that? I've seen it. My grandma was 83 when we shifted it with her and her cancer, and she lived to be 100 with no arthritis and no bronchitis. Now, again, what was it? My grandmother had a loss of her husband that she loved more than anything in her life. And you don't think for 45 years that grief was stuck in her lungs. And when I gave her Ignatia Amar,
Amazing.
her bronchitis, breathing problems never came back because I helped her body release, because it was the love of her life. She lost her life that day.
Yes, she did.
And when you read Ignatia as a remedy, and I used to do the grief down here at the one church, some of those people, that's what it is. You know. That generation, that was it. So again, we're looking at the emotional, the mental, as well as the physical expression of life.
So, I'm a doctor who practices evidence-based medicine, and everything's got to be proven. The difficult part is there are some things out there that are hard to prove. Polio, for instance, was one of those diseases when I was growing up that hit people hard, and I had friends who had polio.
My mom had polio.
And, I got the Sabin where it was on a sugar cube, and, I was fine. I didn't get it. And a lot of us didn't, and the numbers did go down. So that I looked at that and I said, "Oh, that's evidence-based." But how?
Who gave you the evidence?
But see, that's
the whole thing.
Well, I understand that though, but it seems to have worked. But how about the other side of the coin, like PTSD?
That would be one of those ones I would love to be able to go in and do.
But that's what I'm saying. Where can we, in terms of blending our evidence-based, and I always ask this question: why is it that there's information out there that come from 2,000 years ago for some acupuncture, acupressure, and things like that? Why aren't we blending together a lot of this instead of just putting the hand up and saying, talk to it? Why aren't we saying, well, there might be something here that we can use not only physically for people, but mentally for people? Where is that going? I mean, the big dollar sign is sticking right in front of us. That's one of the reasons.
True.
But why can't the public and, just common sense
it's very
people say,
interesting.
Let's do something about that?
It is. But again, it goes back to the knowledge of where it came from. And we look at what's called the Fitzgerald Report back in the early 15, 18. That's what it was. It was this group of people who have that money wanted to go out and say, okay, we want this medicine to be evidence-based. We want it, but we want it to back what we want it to be. So the chiropractors, the Chinese, the homeopathic, all those different naturopath, all those different forms, they decided because they didn't back their pharmaceutical medicine were not right. That's when the shift happened from alternative to traditional, because this didn't back what they wanted. So we have to understand who's training who. You were trained by an industry that wanted to promote their drug, not to promote this herb that could prevent you from needing my drug, or this or this or this, because this takes away from me. And then again, understanding sometimes, because the world is amazing now, we can open up papers that we've never been able to look at. But even to think about polio, believe it or not, when they had the outbreaks, those first outbreaks, they were at a certain time of the year when the children were eating a lot of sugar and candy. And so the sodas and things. And so there were smart people back then that really paid attention to those things. And so that next year, believe it or not, they said, hey, you got to stay away from these things. We know now it lowered their immune system, but they didn't know that. And they didn't have that cause and effect then, but they did see this affected this. Why did polio break out at this time of the year and not this? Why does the flu break out at this time of the year and not there? So the next year, all these parents and everybody got off that sugar candy wagon, and guess what? The polio wasn't as bad that year. Well, the next year, guess who got mad? Mr. Coke and soda and candy people said, you can't say that. And so then, yes, because again, there's so many other hands in that pot. So what can I do as an individual? I can take my hand out of that pot, and I can go and look outside that. And you're right. My vision for 216 would be to take open-minded doctors like you and people that are in the community, senior centers and this and that, and empower those people. Because what would be the most rewarding thing for you to see is if you see that patient that comes in that you know has been struggling with something.
Or that I couldn't treat.
Or you couldn't treat. And your
I've
hands,
tried everything.
You've tried
I've used all the
everything.
traditional.
And are you going to be able to sit with that person for a half an hour or an hour or 3 hours like a homeopath would do and ask them a whole life lesson? No, you're not. And that's where we want to have that. And I think that's what I brought when I came out here to this community was that I bridged that gap. I had teachers, I had professionals, I had chiropractors, I had doctors sending me people when they got to that frustrated point. But you know what? What I did in my job is I want to educate you because you live in that body and you know. You go back and educate that doctor.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that doctor, he wants to know, but who's going to teach him? His background, his school, the drug companies that are coming in and promoting drugs in his office all the time, none of them are going to tell them, hey, you can take this, but we own the power of this. And that's what people need to realize. If I can take a single remedy called Advanced Arnica by King Bio in a spray that comes with multi-potencies and 2 kinds of arnica before and after plastic surgery or any kind of surgery, and I can prevent bleeding and bruising and swelling and inflammation and pain, why wouldn't I do that? Well, this is the education I'm going to bring to this. I used to have people come into the Wellness Center sent by a doctor with that piece of paper that says Arnica 30C. Are you kidding me? This person's having major surgery. I'm going to give them this spray that they can do topical and internal that's going to hit emotional. What happens if this is scaring the heck out of them? There's an LM potency in there for that. Hey, it's still a trauma. It's a surgery. I'm digging into your body. There's a high potency, but then there's a low potency to deal with that pain and inflammation.
Yeah, wow.
You're right. I would love that journey with them.
We need to take a break, unfortunately, but we do.
Take a breath.
Take a breath and take a break.
Take a breath, then a drink.
I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.